Hey, it's Soccer over there. We are live from the Brewhouse. This place, guys, I'm joined by, of course, as always, by the amazing, the exceptionally talented, the wonderful John Nelson and Jason Longshore.
Yo.
Yeah, okay. And so tonight, guys, we have, I always promise that we will bring guests on the show when we can. When people say, you know what, I can carve out some of my precious time for your show, which they discover very quickly is a complete waste of their time.
No.
They come out and they join us, and we always try to bring you guys something new. And what we constantly get feedback on is how you guys love learning about other leagues that maybe aren't featured as often. Now we have a whole just gang of stuff that we're going to get into later on in the show, but we're going to start off with the school hour, and today we are going to learn about Brazilian soccer, gentlemen. This is because when it comes to Copa Libertadores, we only talk about the Argentine side, by and large. Am I wrong?
No, that's right.
Okay. Well,
Flamengo's been dominant, though.
Well, yeah, Flamengo is showing out, and they are in the final against River Plate, and we will be, of course, here at the Brewhouse. More than likely, Jason, does your schedule allow that?
Oh, yeah, that's happening.
Right. Okay, it's happening. All right, we got to make sure, because, John and I will be here. We were willing to go caddies at Bushwood if we have to, but
no, Copa Lib final. I'm here. Come on now.
That's right.
Come on now.
But of course they have 9,000 televisions up here, their own independent power source. So this is going to be the place to be. But we need to make sure that you guys are aware of not only River Plate but also Flamengo and the Brazilian League overall. So to join us today, we have this gentleman right here. It's probably one of the coolest names in the history of mankind. And Brazilians always pull this off. They always have very cool names. Rodrigo Armani's joining us. Sir, how are you?
Good. How about you guys? Pleasure to be here.
Good. No, thanks for coming on.
Yeah, thanks for coming on. Okay, so when we start talking about Brazilian soccer, automatically people start going to the headline names. There's striker Ronaldo, Pele, you have Garrincha. I mean, the names. Do we throw Neymar in there now?
Oh yeah. No, you have to throw Neymar in there. I'm reading a book right now about Socrates, the legendary midfielder who was a doctor and a world-class midfielder, which is like the craziest combination you could ever find. But that's him.
There's some good stories about Socrates. So the legend is while he was at school, he was at medical school. He always said to his teachers that, hey, I just can't be here. I need to go back to the club and train.
Right.
And while he was at the club, I cannot be here.
Yep,
I need to go back and do my med studs. So bottom line, he was always in the bar.
Yeah, unbelievable player. Yeah. Like the craziest look. If you've never seen him, like go check out his highlight reels. 6'4", wow. But like just a classy central midfielder on the ball. Unbelievable player. I saw him at the end of his career. The 86 World Cup was the first one I saw. So that team with Socrates and Zico kind of at the end that lost to France in one of the legendary World Cup matches.
That was the penalty kick that was that it hit the post in the back of the goalkeeper, Carlos, that used to play with actually Socrates at Corinthians.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. So my favorite is the myth of Garrincha on 30 for 30.
That's a great one, yep.
If you have ESPN Plus. Now, the story with him was that one leg was shorter than the other.
Yes.
Yep. But it somehow allowed him to completely fool defenders because it's very difficult to tell which direction he was going to be moving in. It's one legend after the other, and yet still in this world that we live in, we just don't talk enough about Brazilian soccer. So if we had to educate people, if you're sitting down from somebody right in front of us and saying, okay, here are the teams that you absolutely need to pay attention to and follow, what are those teams in the Brazilian league that we need to jump behind? And if we're going to pick teams to follow, who do we need to look at?
So there's always I'll say in this area of Rio and São Paulo, they're probably the major teams, starting with Flamengo, which is the largest soccer fans. They have the largest support in Brazil. the other teams in Rio are not that good at this point. They're very important in the history, but right now they're on the bottom part of the table. But Vasco, Fluminense, Botafogo, which was where Garrincha used to play, he had his golden days at Botafogo. Today, at most, they're in the middle pack.
13th in the table right now at a 20.
Yeah.
Let's start there, because this has been one of the things for me about the Brazilian game. It's been hard looking at it from the outside to kind of understand. I know historically the state leagues were a big thing and the national competition wasn't as big of a deal. Now you do have a national Serie A that plays a pretty traditional type of setup, right?
Yep. Yeah, if you think about it in terms of a very structured league, that started in 1970. Actually, 1971 it was the first official Campeonato Brasileiro. Yes, you're spot on. I mean, before there was not really much structure. There were some leagues, some cups, but not the extent of what the Campeonato Brasileiro is right now. So there was this regional. Sometimes actually in the major cities like São Paulo, they actually had three big, important for Brazilian history teams. So it was restricted to a more localized type of rivalry. Right now, as things start to emerge, and Libertadores, not so long ago, was not really was not a goal for every team. Now is
right.
When people start to make investments, we're gonna win the Libertadores. We're gonna go to Japan. It used to be the Intercontinental Cup.
Yeah.
So yeah, it has shifted from local to a more Brazil-wide championship. That's when all those teams that have the local support, they were actually big in their states, start to decline.
Yeah, it seems like it's right now. Looking at the table, Flamengo, 10 points clear at the top. Palmeiras is next. Santos, Sao Paulo, Internacional. I guess those have been the ones that have been, better over the last decade or so.
Yeah, probably 2 rounds ago, Corinthians was they trade place with Internacional.
Yeah, they're 6.
Those
right.
are the 4 main São Paulo teams.
Okay.
So you can talk about the structure, the pretty much the financial structure that those teams have across among others, they're more structured. So they're positioned to be on the top of the league. It's rare that the 4 are on the top. Usually 2 are really good, 2 just suck for that year.
Right.
But next year is all around. So in terms of Rio, São Paulo, that's where you're going to see most of those big teams. There are probably 2 teams in Minas Gerais, Cruzeiro, Atlético. They're big ones. Large support for their fans. South area, Grêmio, which was in the top of the table for probably 3-4 years. Internacional, that's coming back with Guerreiro as the lead striker. So they're getting back again to the top of the pack.
So we have to ask, because a frequent target on our show has been Neymar. And it just seems that every year there's an injury with Neymar that coincides with the Carnival. And it's some weird ankle injury out of nowhere. An asteroid hits him. Who knows? He gets the flu, a starburst. Who knows? Whatever. But he ends up down in Brazil for Carnival. So generally, what kind of reputation does Neymar have in Brazil? Has it been really watered down since he's jumped to Europe, or has something dramatically shifted with how Brazilians may view him?
It hasn't changed much, actually. I would say the common theme in Brazil is that Neymar is well talented. He's probably the top 3 think about Cristiano, Messi. They're the big guys. Now they're emerging. Griezmann, that's in Barcelona. Some other folks, but Neymar is top talent across the board. The common discussion is Neymar's career is poor managed. His manager is his own father.
Yeah.
That's
So
a
when
problem.
you involve family and professional interests, and they're the same person, that's what people usually say, that Neymar could be. He could be playing for a top league as a very dominant guy, but he made some poor decisions. I mean, his move to PSG was a big gamble. It didn't pay off yet.
No, it
so
hasn't.
for the last 2 years, he was out at the moment they need the most. He hasn't really been the decisive player. If you think about big Neymar, games, they're probably 2 or 3.
Yeah, it's not much.
There's not really much there. It's too little for the guy that can do a lot. So, he's I can tell that I consider him on the same level as, Pelé. I'll put that aside, but Romario, Ronaldo, Ronaldinho, Rivaldo. Rivaldo was the guy that was, probably not many people really talk about him, but he made some amazing things for Barcelona when Barcelona was not the same Barcelona as it is right now.
Right.
There was a pre-Guardiola, pre-Ronaldinho's time. So Neymar doesn't come together with those folks. He's on a probably lower level. He hasn't met full potential. That's the real problem.
That's
with
the
Neymar.
key. I mean, this was a guy that the talk when he first burst onto the scene at Santos and then went to Europe was that you're talking Pelé kind of conversation. And I don't think he's past Ronaldo, Ronaldinho, Rivaldo, Romario, Bebeto. I don't think he's past a lot of players. He's going to be one of those that, you look back at. What has he won for Brazil? He's won the Olympics in Rio, which was, a nice consolation prize after 2014, where his tournament was ended early, but there hasn't been a whole lot else. It's been a lot of disappointment.
You think about it, I can vividly remember about his Barcelona 6, I think was PSG 1. I think that's probably the only other game that I can think about. He was, he was the guy of that game. And I don't know at what extent. So you think about that. Neymar, his early careers was with Santos. Santos has always this stigma about Pelé. So they're always trying to find a new Pelé. Everyone is, very well talented. That happened with Robinho. I don't know if you guys remember Robinho.
Yeah,
AC Milan fan, I certainly remember Robinho.
He was...
That's actually a pretty similar comparison right now, is Robinho and Neymar.
So I don't know at what extent there's so much pressure at Santos to bring the new Pelé, that those guys are... I don't know if they're skipping some of those initial steps. But you can see they're not as humble. They think they play more than they actually play, and again making those very poor decisions. Robinho was another example. It was a poor decision. He left Santos. He left from the back door. Against all odds, he ended up on Real Madrid.
Yep.
Didn't pay out. He was too early in the game. So
Right.
It wasn't the right time, not the right place to be. So So I think it's a good comparison to what happened. I think Neymar is just going the same route.
And just think about that career trajectory. You go from being the next Pele to then you end up going over to Barcelona, where you're supposed to be the next Messi, and then you. In my mind, I could see why his dad, his representative, would then say, why don't we just send you to PSG where you can build your own legend and then you're not the next guy? But the problem is that there's been so much pressure heaped on you to this point that it really, we're going to be looking at him and saying, what if he had been able to get his head straight just for a little while, what we could have seen. And the Robinho comparison, I think, is spot on. because Rubinho, when he got to Real Madrid, would just got the crap beat out of him. And by the time he ended up with AC Milan, he was a shell of himself.
Yeah.
And I keep thinking about the line of Brazilian talent that has come through AC Milan, and I think about Ricky Kaká and even Pato, and Pato was supposed to be the guy.
There's another one
who was going to be.
Pato was it was a weird striker with him because he was really good early on.
Mm-hmm.
He actually I can't remember exactly. I think he was 17 when he was he ended up in Milan, which he played well for quite some years.
Yeah.
He got injured, and he was never being the same player. But with Pato, Pato actually is back to Brazil. He's playing. He was actually he plays a very loose way to put this. He was on the Corinthians squad for a while, and he I can remember that game. It was a penalty kick against Cruzeiro. It's the final of Copa do Brasil. He was so he didn't really pay attention to what he was doing.
Oh wow!
He actually just gave the ball back to Dida. Dida was back to Cruzeiro as their goalkeeper. He was almost beat up. Almost beat up. Since that, he needs to find another place. He went to São Paulo.
They loaned him to Sao Paulo. I'm looking at it now.
He went to China, play a couple of games there. They don't know how many goals he scored there. Probably not that much. He's back, but he's always thinking about something else.
So
he was not live in the game. That's right.
Well, he went for the Panenka, and when the Panenka goes wrong, it's very, very bad. So it's just caught by Dida, and then like you said, they basically pushed him out. I mean, it's okay. You're not going to stay here any longer. So they loaned him to Sao Paulo. He bounced around, went to Chelsea on loan, played 2 matches, ended up at Villarreal, played 14 times, went to China, and now he's back at Sao Paulo.
Yep.
And he's only 30 years old.
And that's one of those guys, though, that my career trajectory for him was that he was going to ball out of control at Milan, be a superstar for the Brazilian national team, and then 35 to 40, he would come to MLS. That would have been that'd have been it. But to watch his body self-destruct the way that it has.
Yeah.
And look, Italian physios are not the world's greatest. I mean, when you get injured in Italy, you stay injured in Italy. You really have to get out of Serie A to properly heal and try to resurrect your career. But that is a career that is just the weirdest. I think that I can remember
I agree.
Superstars.
Yeah.
But is that one of the hardest things for young Brazilian players? Because everyone is the next somebody. Because there's so many legends. If you're a top young defender, you're the next Carlos Alberto. If you're the next goalkeeper, you're the next Tafarel or Dida. Everybody has a comparison. Now, if you're a top young outside back, you're the next Roberto Carlos. I mean, it's just constant. The pressure that Brazilian players deal with, is it maybe more than anywhere else in the world?
I think there's a little bit of that, and quite honestly, that has happened for years and decades. And still, we have Ronaldo's, the Rivaldo's, the Roberto Carlos. They were pressured by the other guys that came before that. I think what happens in Brazil is a little bit of, it's driven by the economic situation. More and more, it's more advantageous to sell the young talent. So those guys leave the country very, very young. Sometimes they're not prepared for that. They see success, they see money coming very early. I think Pato is somewhat that. I mean, you may remember at Milan, he was dating the president's daughter.
Wow.
It's a way to mess up. He's messing his same place he's playing football or soccer. He's actually dating the
Silvio's daughter.
President.
The jokes were running wild, especially as his form declined. It was like, well, we all know why he's still with the team, because obviously.
So having those guys not prepared for this, the clubs in Brazil, they need to sell those young talents. That's how they earn money. I mean, talking about Flamengo is at the position that it is the first one in Brazil because, well, they were able to sell some players for quite some money. They sold Vinicius to Real Madrid.
Yep.
They sold Paquetá to Milan. I think they sold Felipe Vizela. If the list goes on and on. So they were only able to invest because they sold a lot of guys. So that's how they make money. So those guys, Vinicius is a good example. He's probably under 18. I don't even know how old is he, but those guys are leaving the country so early. They're just skipping some steps. They're not prepared for that life. So
and I think you see that with the national team as well, how that there seems to be so much promise with the Brazilian national team that as of late has not come through. And when you look at the names, you're like, my God, they should be destroying everyone. But it just seems, and I wonder, maybe it is. Maybe they are just leaving too early, and you don't have that. By the time they're in a position to contribute to the national team, they're already injury prone. They're already, crippled mentally because of the challenges that they face, leaving their home country at 16, 17, 18 years old, and then going and being, okay, here's Chelsea, okay, here's Milan. Especially when I think of Paqueta and Lau, who are tasked with rebuilding Milan, not just continuing the success, but no, it's your job to resurrect it. I look at that and I'm just like, what in God's name are you doing to these kids? Because they're very good. Obviously, the quality is there. The minute they touch the ball, you see it. But at the same time, you could just tell that it's so much pressure.
Those are big shoes to fill. And think about those guys. It's not a criticism, but they leave early. Sometimes they don't have the family support. Family stays here. So those are guys that never leave alone before. They're away from home. Money, people that have their self-interest. Sometimes they're not really caring for the player. They just want to take profit of that. So how much of that that goes behind the scenes that we don't know? Even Paquetá, he was he gets some conflicts at the very beginning of his stay with Milan. I thought it was the end of the lineup for him. I thought this guy is going to be on some second leagues or some other small clubs on the table. So
that's what there was conversation that he and Marco Giampaolo were like at each other's throats.
Yes. Yep.
And that's why he was benched early on. And again, like you, I'm like, okay, they're going to sell this kid to, they're going to end up selling him to, like a Lazio or
probably a Verona,
like Hellas Verona or something.
Nothing against them, but they're not the big dogs in that.
No, they're not. But it would just seem to me like that was going to be the path, and especially with the Elliott ownership of Milan now, it just seemed like that was going to be the process. It seems that Stefano Pioli has sort of resurrected their fortunes a little bit, moving Lau up top, benching Christoph Piątek, which shocks me completely, but hey,
sometimes it's just the right combination. It's not about the individuals. It's about the chemistry between the group.
But when it comes to the Brazilian national team, let's put you in charge. You are in charge, Roberto, of the Brazilian national team. What do you think it's going to take? Because we've on the outside, when we have this conversation, there are people who say, well, you need to only get people from Brazil who are in Brazil, who live in the country, to make that the national team. Don't pull all these entitled European players over. And then at the same time, we hear those who say, well, you have to start these superstars. If you're in charge, what are you doing?
Well, first, pray for Argentina to be worse than Brazil. That's our motto. So if we're lucky, I don't think Brazil played well Copa America. They end up winning that without Neymar. But to me, it's just because Argentina was a mess. I mean, they have the best players in the South Continent at this point.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't agree. I mean, you need to bring the best ones. And as I said, the best ones are out of the country. They're actually out of the country very early. So I just don't see a way that you can only put the Brazilian league players in the pitch and be successful like that. I think Brazil has a little bit of some prejudice against the international coach, and actually Flamengo is probably breaking some paradigms right now. They have Jorge Jesus that was very successful at Benfica. People are looking to that guy. So what? This is a whole new world. Now the Brazilian coaches are trying to defend themselves. Hey, yeah, it's not that much different from what we do. But the guy is everyone is just saying awesome things about that. Actually, some of the I can't remember what was that? Who was that in the River actually played with Jorge Jesus in Benfica, and this guy breathes soccer 24 hours a day.
Yep.
So I don't have the answer. What can be done in Brazil? I think it's part of me tells that you would only fix that issue if you fix the underlying, economic situation of the clubs. They're not, they're not private companies like, MLS, the major leagues, Premier League. Those are all they're companies. They're run like business. Brazilian soccer is not like that. It's one step behind. Until you fix that, you're just self-fulfilling this process that early players are leaving the country earlier. They're skip some steps. The Brazilian league doesn't really enjoy the raw talent.
Right.
And to make things worse, now some other leagues are emerging as good options for the veterans. MLS is a big one.
Yep.
Think about the players that used to go back in Brazil while players were in their early or mid 30s. Now they have options. They prefer to go to other place and get the extra money for those couple of years. They will probably be on the declining. So it's just getting harder and harder to keep good talent in Brazil.
That's going to be something that I think is going to bear watching as MLS grows and develops and more money comes into it, especially now that you have the NFL owners who are coming in and buying teams. Because for a while, we had a few Brazilian players who showed up here, some with more success than others.
Yeah, it's been a small number.
But and that's really what shocked me is that you see the kids from Argentina and they're like, yeah, we'll come up there. What are you talking? Guaranteed paychecks? I can walk through the grocery store and not get mugged. This is fantastic. I always thought that Brazilian clubs presented a great opportunity because of that. Look, one man's issues is another man's opportunity, and so I always thought that Brazil would be rated a little bit more by MLS than it has.
Some of it's price. I mean, even with some of the financial issues that Brazilian clubs have had, they've been in a better situation than Argentine clubs or other clubs. So they've been able to hold on just a little bit longer on some of these players and wait it out. But also, Brazilian players generally come at a premium. So you're talking about, for a player with the same kind of CV, you're going to be able to get a better deal in Argentina if you're an MLS club than a Brazilian player. I mean, I think a prime example is the Sudamericana final from a couple of years ago, where a lot of people said Ezequiel Barco was the star and the player that was getting all of the attention. He goes to MLS for $15 million reportedly, and in that same match, Vinicius Jr. is going to Real Madrid for like $50 million. And Barco's played more and maybe shown more so far, but he's not Brazilian. So there is a little bit of that cachet from history with your Pelés and with the classic national team kit that it does mean a little bit, and I think it adds a few zeros to the price tags.
I do love that Pelé was so good that the Brazilian government was like, No, you're not leaving. You're not leaving. No, you can't go anywhere. You are a vital national interest. You are not going anywhere.
Well, see, that's what's so funny when you compare Brazil and Argentina, because Argentina tried to do that with Diego Maradona, and it lasted a year, and they couldn't pay him anymore because they were bouncing checks.
But Maradona was crazy.
Well,
on
also
top
that.
of everything.
There's also that. Don't get me wrong, but when he went to, he was at Argentinos, and when he went to Boca, that was like, we want to keep him in the country. We don't want him to leave the country. Boca's the only one who can actually afford to pay him. Oh, okay, let's make sure that Boca's got all the private money so they can pay him. Oh, they still can't pay him. All right, let him go.
Yeah, Pelé was actually, so think about the 70s in Brazil. The military was in charge of the country. So it was part of the propaganda that, Pelé is a national treasure. The military just used that, Pelé's image for their favor. So they made a big deal about the 70s, the 1970 World Cup. It was a big boost in popularity for the military regime. So
wow. See, this is the reason why we can do all the digging we want, but it's the details like that.
See, but now we got to get personal though. Who's your team?
Yep.
Sport Club Corinthians Paulista.
Okay. Why?
Well, it is the club in my city. So I'm from São Paulo. São Paulo, as I said, there are three main big clubs. Palmeiras. So I was, I think prior to being live, you were talking about green. If you ever put green on a jersey, well, Palmeiras has a nasty green. On their
as a Corinthians fan, you would say that, yes.
Yes.
So it was funny because Corinthians at the time I was growing up, it was the underdog. Other clubs, they had a lot more success. São Paulo, 1992, 93, they were twice world champions. That was the old International Cup. They didn't play with small clubs. It was Barcelona in 92, 93 was Milan. I don't have a reason. I think it's just this desire to, I'm going to choose the underdog because if they really do well, that's the Cinderella dream, like the Leicester a couple of years ago. Since the probably 90s, Corinthians' first Brazilian league title was in 1990. Not really a superstar. It's just average players doing. You talk about chemistry. That was a good chemistry. Now they own 7 league titles, 3 Copa do Brasil titles. So actually 2, or I'm missing probably 2 or 3. So they are Palmeiras has most of the titles in Brazil. Corinthians is the second. Flamengo is getting there. So I think they probably be tied with Corinthians this year. So it's just fun to watch. It's a team that you need to have a good heart condition because it's man, every game, even the small games are just you suffer a lot. So I used to watch games with my brother at home, and oh my God, we're cursing to the TV all the time. My mom used to get mad. Actually, my mom decided to cheer for São Paulo just because because we're so annoying.
Wow.
Man.
So there's a lot of passion involved in about soccer. Let me tell you that.
Favorite player growing up? Who was it?
Ronaldo. He's by far best player that I've ever seen. I haven't seen a striker with his velocity, his the talent. He came to play for Corinthians at the late part of his career, which he was visibly he was overweighted.
Yeah.
But he actually scored the goal for the Campeonato Paulista. That's the regional in São Paulo. Amazing goal. On top of the goalkeeper, just raw talent. That guy is talent 100%.
I talked to my son about old school Ronaldo because he only knows Cristiano. And I tell him that when Ronaldo played for Inter, there is no other player before or since who, whenever he touched the ball, it terrified me. Because we knew that the minute he got the ball, it was a shot on goal. It doesn't matter where he received the ball. It doesn't matter how many defenders, who was marking him. You had, even with Maldini on the field, who was the ultimate security blanket, you knew the minute he touched it, he could outrun everyone, he could move past everyone, and he was going to launch a ballistic missile off of that foot of his that would more than likely be in a position where the keeper could not get it. And still, to this day, if you had to tell me which player I thought was the greatest that I've ever seen play, it's him. It's Ronaldo.
I think Nesta, someone asked Nesta, what's the most difficult player that you play against? And, he said it was Ronaldo. Ronaldo was amazing. He was, you just can't be distracted because he was so darn fast that he would pass by you like...
and you couldn't knock him off the ball. He was
he had the combination.
Yeah, it was like, what cheat code did somebody put in to create this guy where he's too big to knock off the ball? You can't outrun him. It's like handing a controller to a 10-year-old and saying, okay, create the perfect player, and then they kind of give him a little funny haircut in 2002 and send him out there.
Oh yeah, that was unfortunate.
But 2002 was a very tough World Cup to discuss, personally.
Here we go again. I didn't bring it up this time.
But I will say that it's probably the one where, as much as I say Italy should have won, that's probably the one Brazilian team where I'm like, maybe not, because they were just stacked to the gills with talent. And I have a question that I'm going to start throwing out to our guests here.
Okay.
You have one penalty kick to save your life, right? If the person makes it, go on to fame and fortune. Player misses, it's a wrap. Who's kicking the ball?
Man, one
who's taking the penalty to
Who's
save
taking
your
the
life?
penalty to save your life?
And the Panenka.
No, he's missed that before. I'm not risking it on the Panenka. You crazy?
Joseph?
He's missed them before too.
He's missed him before.
But you can't do the Fred Flintstone bowling step.
You gonna tell him that?
I'm not telling Joseph Martinez that.
But if your life is on the line,
I'm not telling him what to do.
you have
No.
creative control.
If for me, I have to go with my arch nemesis, Zidane. Zidane is my.
Okay.
That's my keeper. That's my PK or die.
Yeah, I'd
take.
have confidence in him. I could go. I'm gonna go off the rails on this one.
Okay, here we go.
So Jose Luis Chilavert. If you remember Chilavert, goalkeeper for the Paraguayan national team, always took the penalties and typically always made them. I was tempted to go because of our guest to believe it's Senni.
Senni, yeah.
Yeah, who Sao Paulo, right?
Sao Paulo, yeah.
Who was the same. Always took penalties, took free kicks around the area too. Was just automatic. Scored a boatload of goals. But Chilavert, the reason I take him is he's like super intense, and he might scare the goalkeeper enough to then not have to do anything special. So I'm going to take Chilavert.
He was strong. He was.
He was a beast.
Yeah, he was. Yeah, he's. I mean, I don't know many other goalkeepers that used to kick some of those free kicks and penalties. I think Higuita started that early 90s.
Yeah, and he didn't really take too many of the penalties and free kicks. He was just crazy, and he'd come out and dribble. Campos was like that from Mexico.
Yep.
But Chilavert and Senni, they'd take free kicks and penalties, and they were nearly automatic. They were great from both.
Mind-bending.
One guy that I saw, and I think probably he didn't take as many penalty kicks, was Ronaldinho.
Mm-hmm.
But he was pretty good, and he was so good at the free kicks. Oh my God! There's some memorable games that he, you never know where it was coming from behind the guys in front of the goal. He was the top left, top right corner.
He could put it wherever he wanted.
He could probably throw with his hand. He would not have the same success.
Is he your PK or die person?
Yeah.
He's your PK or die.
Yeah.
Okay, Ronaldinho. All right, so we're gonna go with classic pre-partying, pre-club Ronaldinho.
Yeah, you got to get pre-club Ronaldinho.
Yeah, because I mean he was a human video game too.
Oh yes.
I mean he was like, yeah.
I'm looking at it. I gotta find the story to this because
John, you're not ducking out of this either.
Yeah, you have to think about it. When I was thinking about Chilavert and I'm looking back at it, I remember the goalkeeper jersey. I think he wore it for Velez when he played there with the giant bulldog on the front. I think he had like his own special logo for a goalkeeper jersey.
Made?
Yeah, he was like Campos. Campos would go with crazy with the colors, but Chilavert with a giant bulldog on the front of his kit.
Oh, I love it.
Yeah, he was big at Velez. I don't remember his jersey, but I remember.
I remember that bulldog on the front. I got to find the story behind it. I don't think it was Quilmes was the sponsor, and it wasn't anything to do with a club logo. I think it was just you're not going to tell Chilavert no. He wants a bulldog on the front of his shirt. He's getting a bulldog.
I will say that Dita has, in my mind, the most ridiculous dive in human history. It's when the fan ran onto the field. I want to say it was Champions League. It was like a Celtic fan ran on the field and it missed Dita's face by 4.5 to 5 inches. And Dita realized, if the fan touches me, it's a 3-0 forfeit. We get the win. So you could see the wheels turning, and he launches himself to the ground. It's the most ridiculous dive I've ever seen in my life. But I met him when Milan played Club America, and he could not have been more friendly. He was just the nicest guy. So while he does have the most ridiculous dive in human history, I will give him credit for also being a very, very nice man. Leonardo, not so much. All right, John, who's your PK or die?
I'm sitting here looking at Chilavert doing free kicks.
Well, see, I was wrong on Higuita. Higuita, 41 goals in his career, so he did score a good number. Chilavert scored 67, and he's got 8 with Paraguay at the national team level, and he is the only goalkeeper to have a hat trick. Yes.
Wow.
I'm taking that guy. I'm riding down with him.
I think I would go that way too.
But Senni has the number of goals for a goalkeeper, 131 goals in his career, 61 free kicks, 69 penalties, 14 goals in the Copa Libertadores. That's a goalkeeper.
Yeah. That's a I'm sitting here and I'm looking at Senni and I'm looking at Chilavert and it's like
Chilavert hat trick with Velez. That's amazing.
But I'll go with local bias. I'll go ahead and have Joseph do it.
Joseph.
Yeah.
You're not going to get to talk to him. You're not going to tell him to do what you want him to do.
No, but it's just like, dude, just
no. You're not going to get to say anything.
no, just it would be literally, dude, nod your head, point toward the goal, do it.
He might miss on purpose.
Yeah, really.
You try to tell him what to do, he might miss on purpose.
Yeah, then all of a sudden the turf opens up and you just fall right
through it.
through
He takes the largest jump you could ever imagine just to throw you off.
And then just like, if you see the chunk of turf go right up and the ball doesn't move.
Yeah.
And the ball barely moves to the left. The chunk of turf is like the Al Chervik divot in Caddyshack. And that's what it happens. But no, as I sit here and I'm going down the Senni and Chilavert rabbit hole, it's been interesting to see them and their efforts, especially free kicks, not just PKs, but free kicks, is pretty sick.
Yeah, those are the 2 highest scoring goalkeepers in the history of the game, which is nuts. Let's bring it back to Libertadores as we kind of continue the journey in the Brazilian game. So Flamengo and River in the final. It is scheduled, and we'll see if anything changes, for Santiago, Chile, later in November, which there's always possibility of things getting weird with CONMEBOL. I don't know as much about Flamengo. I saw most of the first leg where they just dominated Gremio, but watching River, they're a very complete team. Can Flamengo, where do you think the level is? Are they the favorite? Is it a toss-up to you?
I think Flamengo has advantage this time.
Okay.
Think about River. They are probably in the same river as last year. They lost Peter Martinez.
Yeah.
He's right here in Atlanta. I don't see the the main guy, the top talent, they need to succeed. I think Flamengo is in a very good striker. Think about the top players. Flamengo has the 3 top scorers in the Brazilian league at this point. So they have Gabriel, that actually is on loan. They still tied to Inter Milan.
There's been all kinds of talk about Gabigol going back now.
Yep. So he's a top guy. Bruno Henrique that came from Santos. Flamengo pay a lot for him. It's the second one, Arrascaeta, that's coming from Cruzeiro. So they have the top talent. Think about the two sides. The left is Felipe Luis, that not so long ago was playing national team. He was playing Spain at Atletico. Rafinha is on the right side. He was on the Bayern
God, what a
Munich.
lineup.
Yeah, this is ridiculous.
So the lineup goalkeeper is he was playing in oh my God, forgot his name right now. He was playing at Valencia, I think, if I'm not mistaken. So all those guys were recently playing in the big leagues, and they're not at the end of their career. Well, you can tell that Felipe Weasel is a little bit more, end of his career, but he's still playing really well. They got Gerson. Gerson is they talk about Flamengo and they say this is the guy that put Flamengo in a new level.
Right.
So he came from Roma.
Yep.
Doing amazing things. He's actually replacing Diego. Diego was the he was in the 11 initial players.
Right.
He got injured, and the team starts to win. And now Diego is back, and he just warming the bench. He's not gonna get back to the pitch anytime soon.
Wow.
So I see a lot in Flamengo. I think they have really good names. I think they got really good leadership. I mean the coach is something amazing. I think he's changing a lot how the Brazilians see the international coaches in Brazil. They got a structure. They got financial stability. It's a very solid team. River's not the same, but it's always River. Argentinian clubs they're always hard to beat. Gallardo is still the coach, so you never know. It can go both ways.
Yeah, but you give me a lot to think about here, because even though I watched the Gremio Flamengo game and I was like, okay, Flamengo, nothing to sneeze at. These boys are serious. But on further review, if we go to VAR here, I may have to rethink about where I apply my juice boxes, gentlemen, because
We'll see.
there's a little bit of something here.
Let's see Juan Fernando Quintero and how healthy he gets between now and then, because he could be that difference maker. That I'm with you. I think River against Boca was very good. League play, they've been all right, but they've been so focused on Libertadores. It's all about that for them. They've been good, but not what they were last year, because they didn't have that difference maker like Pitti.
Right.
Quintero can be that, but he's been hurt. So if he's back and really hitting on all cylinders for the final, it's a different conversation. When you look at the transfer market valuations, just to get a sense of the two clubs, River, their roster, it's very heavily weighted by Quintero and Ezequiel Palacios, who are both over $17 million apiece in market value. They're rated at $176 million in their roster's market value. Flamengo, let me get it to dollars so I can compare like for like. Because I don't know my exchange rate off the top of my head. 143. So very similar. When Flamengo, according to the transfer values, you're talking about Gabigol at $20 million. Reinier is a 17-year-old at $17 million. Arrascaeta is 15, and Gerson is 15 as well. So they've got One thing that stands out to me when I look at this is you've got, a couple teenagers in Renier and Lincoln, but then you've got, Everton Ribeiro at 30. You've got some veterans mixed in too. It feels like a more complete team. I think the thing in South America that we see a lot of times is rosters are very, very young because players move on to Europe quickly, so they bring in the next crop of young players. And then they're very old because you have the veterans who come back. Mm-hmm. You don't have as much of that middle tier, but guys like Arsketa is very important at 25, a veteran who is the link between the two ages, the link between the two generations. Yep. Flamengo's got that.
And it has been the norm in Brazil as the probably the early 20s to late 20s, those guys are playing on the big leagues.
Yeah.
So one way the Brazilian league starts to, get some of that talent they need, they went to South American market. Mm-hmm. So Brazil has probably is in a better financial state as compared to Argentina, Colombia.
The league's definitely the best in the continent.
Those guys don't earn as much in that. Before they go to Europe, they don't earn as much as in the Brazilian league. So it's relatively easy to attract, not the top guys, because the top guys are also flying to Spain, Italy, UK. Mm-hmm. But the guy's not that bad. I mean, he can be your superstar in the Brazilian league. So that's where you see some of the talent, those think about the guys that are coming to South America and being the top. Some of that is imported from Argentina and Colombia as being an important market to Brazil.
Right.
Wow.
But now we have MLS competing for the same talent. So that's also getting in the way how the league develops.
So my Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu instructor is like a 5-time world champion, and he's a Sao Paulo fan. What kind of trouble will I be in if I walk into the gym wearing a Corinthians jersey?
Not at all.
Not at all?
Very, very friendly.
Okay.
Make some insurance in the name of your wife just to be safe.
That's right.
And don't wear one of my jerseys.
Okay.
That's what I.
Don't wear one of yours. Okay. Noted. Duly noted.
Yeah, don't need any of that. Who is Corinthians' big rival? Is it Palmeiras?
Palmeiras, yes.
Okay.
Yep.
Is it a nasty rivalry or a little bit?
It's it gets to a point. I saw that with my own eyes. So there's Corinthians has a story that they never allow green to be part of the jersey or anything related to the club.
Mm-hmm.
I love it.
To a point that, so for the 2014 World Club, Corinthians actually built a stadium. That's where some of the I think the initial game or some of the important games were held. Mm-hmm. The grass is actually darker than the normal grass. If they could, they would put a black grass, but I don't think they developed such a thing.
Wow.
The glass, so there's a lot of glasses around the stadium.
Yeah.
They're imported glass. Usually in a glass you put a lot of, iron.
Yeah.
And it gets, when you put light, it gets greener.
Uh-huh.
So always look at the shower glass. There's always green.
Yeah.
So the imported glass from Italy, that's completely white. So there's no. Yes. So that's where it gets. So the story that I have is so we're watching a game. There's this guy with something green in his pocket. So everyone starts to shout at him, "Get out of here! Just what are you doing? What is this green stuff?" And people are shouting. The guy is not acting.
Yeah.
And we got worried about it. Man, the guy's gonna be killed here. Well, at some point he was really fed up, and he took what's out of his pocket was a Brazilian flag that has a lot of green on that.
Wow.
And he was shaking. This is Brazil. So
Wow.
that's how passionate people are in those games.
Wow.
I'm sorry if my green microphone offends you.
Well, I'm trying
it.
not to watch that directly.
He's averting his eyes away from the microphone.
Oh man.
That's the stories. Those are the stories right there that are amazing. It's absolutely. So when people when the national team's playing, do you guys find yourselves wearing more of the blue and the white kit as opposed to the canary and the green?
No, the yellow is sacred. This is yeah. It's funny that some of the important games were in blue. Think about sorry to bring that back, but Brazil in United States, 1994. That was one classic game that they were wearing blue. But no, the color is that the yellow is the
that is untouchable.
That's untouchable. Yep.
Probably one of the greatest jerseys in all of sports.
Oh yeah, it's one of the most identifiable, easily.
I mean, anyone who wears that jersey, I'm going to judge you and assume you can play. So if you're wearing that and you cannot play, I want you to have a gut check right now with yourself and say, should I be wearing this? Is it time for me to have a wardrobe change?
Did I earn the rights to wear such a thing?
Yeah.
That's right. Yeah. Like, I'm going to pass you the ball. And if you can't see 3 or 4 passes ahead, you need to go ahead and just take it off.
Take it off.
Just remove it for your own safety.
It's true.
I mean, I'm just throwing that
There's
out there.
Very interesting story about how that jersey became yellow. It was not yellow in the beginning of the times when Brazil started to play.
They were white, right?
They were white, yeah.
In 1950, they were white, and it became associated with disaster.
Yeah. So that's exactly that. So they come up with an idea of okay, so if we're not wearing white anymore, what can we do? So they opened for a public contest, and one of the winners was the yellow shirt. And since then, Brazil hasn't really played with the white. They actually recently played with the white one. There's I think the South American, the first international game was 19. I'm going to say 19.
Yeah,
So
around
it was
there.
just 100 years old league, and they decide to wear white just just for the sake of commemorations. But it's not really a tradition for Brazil.
Yeah,
to
I
wear
remember
white.
seeing that this year when they did the 2019 white jersey, and it's like, whoa, wait a minute. That's bringing up bad memories for Brazil.
Yeah,
Because that's what's crazy about Brazil with the national team for me is all of the success, all of the World Cups, never taking that away, but 2 of the most heartbreaking moments at a World Cup as well, with 1950 losing to Uruguay at home, and then 2014. It's like you get both sides of it. You know, we talk about it from like a Georgia football perspective, and it's always coming up short, except for 1980. It's always been coming up short. The Falcons, it's always coming up short.
Yep.
But you have like those moments, like 28-3. You have that for Brazil with 1950 and 2014, but you still have all the trophies as well. You have both.
Yeah.
That's a lot. That's a lot to deal with.
Yeah, look, from an international standpoint, as an Italy fan, there's only 2 teams that ever really concern me, and that's France and Brazil. For some reason, it doesn't matter. Like, you could put Boy Scout Troop 773 in French outfits, and it's still going to end up being an insane game. I can't explain it. It just is what it is. And Brazil, just because that name recognition, it's like Brazil, and you're like, oh, God, here we go. This is going to be one of those games.
we share the same feeling about France. France hasn't been our best opponents probably ever, which led to some good stories about the free kick from Roberto Carlos.
Oh, yes.
Too, I still watch YouTube's videos of that, and it's probably around 20 years or so.
My son watches YouTube clips of that. I can't tell you how many balls I've had to go shag because he's trying to recreate the Roberto Carlos physically impossible kick.
So France hasn't been really a good name for us, but Brazil is all the 5 times world champions. Still, those 2 games are just it creates a lot of superstitions. I mean, just to the fact that Brazil wears yellow, not white, is a big sign of that.
Yeah.
After 2014, 7-1 became a slang in Brazil.
Wow.
Oh man, this is gonna be a 7-1. This is gonna be a really bad thing. So, you have a test at college tomorrow. You didn't study for that. Oh
Right.
man, that's gonna be a 7-1.
That's our 28-3.
Yeah, no, it is. It absolutely is.
It's people really to
Wow.
use that on their day to day. It shows how people really care about soccer. The support of the national team has declined, but still, it's Copa America, it's World Cup. There's no way you're gonna watch those games no matter what.
If someone were so inclined, how could they watch Brazilian League? How could here in Atlanta, if we were to want to watch Brazilian soccer, how do you show us the way?
Stuff.
Yeah.
So I think Fox has the Libertadores, so that's where you can really
BN
follow
now.
some of them.
Yeah, BN's got it.
I think they actually have some of the games of Brazilian League, but I to be quite honest, I follow on internet. That's I don't want to say, but I actually have a superstition. I don't like to watch my club games live.
Yeah.
I need to wait so they're done to watch those games.
Oh, wow.
It's crazy, but
Wow.
it gets to a point that. So I learned that Corinthians won Libertadores in 2012 after the fact. So I didn't want to open internet. I'm not going to open. If I open Facebook, someone's going to tell me. I cannot know what's going on. So I watched. So that's how I do that. But there's not really many places you can watch the league.
Yeah, it's the league that it's probably the biggest one out there that hasn't been snatched up by an ESPN Plus
Which is
or
shocking.
Fanatis or BR Live, whatever, anything. Like I can't think of a bigger league that isn't snatched up somewhere.
Some of that comes from the fact that there's a very powerful communication company in Brazil, Globo, and they own the rights, so they don't really allow others they don't share the rights. While in South America in general, in Argentina, you have Fox. Fox has a big presence there. There's some other big international companies owning those rights, so it gets easier to follow outside your own country. But unfortunately, with Brazil, there's not really many games on TV. Libertadores is probably the best or the easiest route to see some of those Brazilian players.
All right, I think I'm going to have to get a Corinthians kit. I think I'm going to have to do
You're
it.
sold?
I may have to. Look, the story of the green sold me. Because especially in Serie A, we know of there are teams that don't allow certain numbers anywhere. Like they rip out. Was it 14? 17.
Was it 17?
I want to say it was 17, where they rip out the 17 off. No one can wear it. They don't even have a seat 17. It just skips the number. If you are importing glass from Italy to avoid a green tint, I am 1,000% on board with that kind of insanity. Are you now your boys? Are you raising them the right way? Are you raising them to be Corinthians fans, or just keeping them away from that insanity?
I'm trying. We had some early Corinthians jerseys. They outgrown those. We have some pillows. Problem that when they go to Brazil, we usually stay at my in-laws' house. My father-in-law is a big São Paulo supporter.
Oh wow!
Last time we were there, probably the second from last, they came back from Brazil with 2 São Paulo jerseys.
Yes.
It was, man, it's so hard to get to them,
That's right.
And now I made sure that we don't have pictures of those, and the ones that are saved on the hard drive, mysteriously, they're just gone.
Yeah,
all the other pictures are there. Those specifically are gone.
Yes, I love it.
Yeah, no, it's very passionate team. There's another story that for some reason Nike is the suppliers. They provide all the sports gears for all the divisions for Corinthians. For some random reason, they have a training gear, and they had green on the shoulders,
Oh,
which
no.
was obviously vetted by whoever was in charge of that in Corinthians.
Yeah.
Some of those jerseys actually appear in the market. So you can actually go to eBay and buy some of those, and those are rare.
Oh yeah.
And people will get you, let me
Yep.
find the ones
Yep.
with the green stuff,
going.
because it was the prohibited ones.
Yeah.
Rare and hard to find jerseys. I'm all on. Oh, hold up! Somebody just posted a collared Milan jersey. Oh, wait. Sorry, honey.
Yeah, he's been sidetracked.
Dr. Wifey is at home, and she hears me saying all this, and I'll start getting
She hears
panic
eBay,
texts.
and the phone's going to start
Momentarily,
buzzing here in a second.
Phone's going to be falling off the table. Like, you can't hang out with Rodrigo anymore. It's not going to happen. I can see what's going to happen. But no, but like that's the stuff that the crazier stories that you have regarding your team, the more interested I am, because that's the stuff that, when we talk about soccer over there, it is not just this team played, this team scored, this team got a red card. You can find that information anywhere, right? But to have people on and occasionally do a deep dive on a league, that's something that's I think that's part of what sets our show apart, and I love that.
I think with the rise of all the streaming services, I would not be surprised at all to see the Brazilian Serie A end up with one of them in the next year or two. It's too big of a property not to. And then I think, for me, I can tell you, I watch Argentina more than I ever have because of Fanati's having it. I can watch it. I mean, tomorrow I'm looking at the schedule, and I'm like, ooh, got a game at 2 in the afternoon, got a game at 4, got a game at 6:10, got a game at 8:20. I'm set. I'm good. That's my backdrop as I'm studying for Atlanta and Toronto. And, to have the accessibility is huge. So if it's ESPN Plus, if it's BR Live, whoever it is, somebody will snatch that up, and I think more kids in the Atlanta area and across the U.S. will be able to dig deeper into the league. I think the national team always has that cachet no matter what, but the league and the club teams, it's felt for me as somebody who grew up here, very exotic because I've never had a chance to see much of it outside of international competition.
Yeah, you can. I know that I think Xfinity has the Global as an option, but you need to sign a premium package.
I don't know if Uverse has Globo or not. I'll have to double check.
I don't think they
do.
Or at least, so I had Uverse a couple of years back, and they didn't offer that. But
Goal TV had the Brazilian League for a little while, and I don't think they do anymore.
Okay.
But they had it for a while because I remember watching some of the they had some of the cup competitions, and the cup competitions were wild. Some of the results, because it's such a huge country and there's so many clubs, you'd get these really random matchups with teams, and I got to go back and figure out who the team was. I just remember they were a very small semi-pro team, I think from the interior of the country, and they advanced pretty far, and they had uniforms that I swear they bought from a local sporting goods store, 'cause I think they were Wilson brand.
Yes.
Wilson brand, black and gray stripes. They were just terrible. It looked like they were off the rack from whatever cheap store they could find, but they just kept knocking off big teams. It was so cool to watch. It's the stories like that. I mean, that's what I love about the Copa Argentina, where you get these random teams making deep runs. You get the random teams who make a jump into the top flight. For somebody who's outside of it and doesn't have the lifelong history with a club, those are the things that grab my attention. And I hope that the league becomes more available to us here in the States, because I think when we look at MLS, we look at Liga MX, we look at Colombia, Brazil, Argentina, those are kind of the big five. And if you're an MLS fan, you need to watch these other leagues for a basis of comparison.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because, I mean, I do think there will be a day when there is, if it's Copa Libertadores, if it's Sudamericana, whatever, where MLS teams are participating. The economic reasons are going to make that happen at some point. So you need to see what that level is, and you need to watch what these clubs can be, because MLS clubs can get there, but they're not there yet. Not there consistently anyway.
No.
And you need to know what you're competing with.
Well, and if you're an MLS fan and the rumor mill comes out that you're getting player X, Y, or Z, or a certain manager is going to be coming out, from the Brazilian leagues and managing an MLS team, it's not out of the realm of possibility. I mean,
No, not at all.
No one thought we'd get Tata Martino here in Atlanta, and it happened. And you have, I just think it's important to watch these leagues, see these players where they are now, and say, just educate yourself. And if you're looking for an alternative from NFL, all these games are taking place in the same time period, so it's very easy to sit there and say, okay, well, I can start off with Premier League in the morning. I can move to Serie A in the afternoon, MLS, early evening. And, oh wait, what is this? We have Brazil happening in the late hours. Absolutely fantastic. So,
I was gonna draw a parallel. So, a lot of people, in the U.S., they follow college sports. So, college football, college basketball. Talk to those guys. Some will say, "Well, I like to see the game." The game is a little bit more innocent at that level. They're not, behind some glories of money or, fame. But there are people that follow the college sports because they want to see how those players are evolving. They like to say, hey, that guy was playing for this college. Now he's in this professional league, and he's kicking butts in that league. You can draw the same parallel. If you follow those leagues, that's where you're going to see the big players coming from.
Yep.
If you see a Messi today, Messi was a different story. He came to Barcelona very early. But think about the Brazilian players. Ronaldo used to play for a very, not Europe-wide famous team, but he was sporting at Portugal, which is, okay team there. But see how those guys really evolved, what skills they got. It's following someone's career. There's just such an appeal.
That's right.
We're going to see more of that MLS. Hopefully not the people are just on the very end of their careers, but maybe MLS will be fighting against like Pity Martinez. It's a raw talent that Almiron. Don't forget about Almiron.
Absolutely.
Almiron came from those leagues to MLS. He's in Europe. He's playing the big leagues right now. So it has some appeal to follow those guys around.
Absolutely. Let's do a quick. Cause if we don't jump into Europe, I think people will sling.
They might riot a little bit.
Some mean tweets at us.
Yes, it's true.
So let's jump into Europe really quick, and let's first of all, there's something here where Southampton. I have to talk about Southampton really quick. Leicester City came in and brought the absolute just strong hand from the southbound train, and they slapped them around 9-0. Mr. Vardy decides to celebrate after his hat trick on the 9th goal. Gentlemen, is that poor form, or is that, hey, if you score, you can celebrate however you want?
Go ask Rebecca Vardy.
Oh.
Let her answer that one. I'm going to stay out of it.
Did you see the news about Southampton today? They decide to donate 1 day worth of their salary to charity because they're very, very embarrassed about that.
See, that I can get down with that. John, your thoughts on that whole situation?
If you can't stop it, that's a you problem. You got to rack up goal difference. I mean, it was, from what I heard with Brendan Rodgers at the break, it was like show no mercy. And there is no mercy in this dojo.
Total Cobra Kai.
Yeah, that's what he was. And Alex Krupp on Twitter asks, with the way they're playing, can we start talking about Leicester City as the favorite to supplant the established order at the top of the Prem outside of Liverpool and Man City?
Yeah, I mean, you're talking right now about Liverpool on 28 points through 10. They've only lost 2 all season. Manchester City on 22, but they have a ton of injuries. And Pep Guardiola's saying, like, look, we might not be able to really, truly deal with this. The horns honking outside are Leicester fans.
That's right.
Because they're the ones who are right now in third that goal differential helps a little bit, and that pushes you up ahead of Chelsea. You're even with them on 20 points. But you're 4 points clear of Arsenal, and they're a mess at the moment. We'll get into Arsenal in a second. Crystal Palace is on 15, but it feels like Leicester is in this for the long haul and could be a top 3 finisher. They really could.
Well, I mean, that's what we were talking about earlier in the season when is this sustainable for them? Well, guys, we're getting up into November, and they're still there. It's time to start considering them.
You're getting close to a third of the way through.
Yeah, it's time to start considering them as I'm not going to say challengers for the throne. You're 8 points behind, but Liverpool, this is not a trolling comment. They have been known to slip a few places down.
You know that's a trolling comment. Don't even lie. Don't try to sit over there and lie that you're not trolling with it.
I'm just saying it happens. There is a historical precedent.
Other words you could have used.
You know, felt a little lazy at the moment.
Let's get into Arsenal for a second,
Okay.
because I dropped this into our notes. It was from The Athletic this morning. Unai Emery, not really in the greatest of spots at the moment.
No.
Xhaka, not really enamored with the fan base, and they're not really enamored with him at the moment either. But Unai Emery was chosen as the Arsenal manager last year, and now, from The Athletic this morning, the list of who was not chosen.
Yeah. This is a large list.
I mean, it's a varied list, too. So there's a few that would have been real surprises for me. Patrick Vieira was on the list. Thierry Henry was on the list.
Yeah.
Both would have been silly. Ralph Rangnick, Red Bull soccer legend.
Yeah.
Okay, that would have been a very different style of play. Julian Lopetegui, Jorge Sampaoli, Allegri was on this list. And the one who was ultimately very close was Mikel Arteta, but doesn't have the experience, didn't have a staff.
Yeah.
Well, they also discussed, they didn't get to this point with them, Conte, Eddie Howe, Sarri, Brendan Rodgers.
Yeah, I remember the Eddie Howe discussions.
Is Arsenal looking in the mirror like, oh, man, what did we just do?
I think they are. I think they have to be. You can toss out any name you want. That doesn't mean you're going to sign them. I mean, we know this all too well.
At least Anthony Hudson isn't on that list.
Yeah,
that is
seriously.
very true.
He's doing a podcast. He's busy.
But, wow.
He is. He's doing a podcast
is.
now. You can subscribe.
Okay, all right.
Stan Kroenke's a subscriber, I bet.
I'm sure he is. But you could, some of those names on there are money names that if you write a check big enough, they're coming in.
Oh, yeah.
And Allegri is one of those guys that if you wrote a check big enough, it's a project that I think he would enjoy. Just like he enjoyed getting Milan and making them and maintaining that competitiveness. And there has to be some part of him that feels sort of sweet that the minute he left, they went into a Chernobyl-like decline. I think that if Arsenal, he would be a departure from the style of Arsenal.
Yeah.
I don't think you were going to land Sarri because I think Sarri was just tired of England in general, and he was ready to get back to Italy where he could smoke 47 cigarettes a day.
Why you want to
drink
drink
Oh, more than that.
Why
No,
you
60.
want-
It was 60.
There we go.
Yeah, don't undersell Maurizio
No,
Sarri's
no, no.
smoking
47
ability.
packs of smokes a day, not 47 cigarettes a day.
That's right.
You're off a little bit.
He's single-handedly keeping the tobacco farms in North Carolina fully up and operational. But
I have shares.
that's right. Yeah, I'm sure he does. But I think a name like Allegri would have made sense there if you're trying to get into the top 4, stay in the top 4, and compete in the Champions League. You have to have that manager who can solidify your squad, provide some defensive prowess and tactics, and the signings would have been a little different if Allegri had been in charge.
A little bit.
But I think that may have been also why he did not take the job, because if they did not give him the latitude needed to make the signings he wanted, I'm not taking that job.
No.
No, because if you hire me, if you come to me for a job,
Yeah.
I'm going to say, okay, well, what do you want me to do? Okay, well, how am I empowered to do that job?
Yeah, what financial resources am I allowed to partake in?
Exactly. And if they say, well, it's not going to be that much.
We're building a stadium in Los Angeles at the moment. We'll get back to you.
Nope. That's a nope. In fact, I would dictate to my agent that you're sending a one-word response, N-U-P-E, not no, nope.
Here's my question.
That's all you're getting.
The buzzer sounding emoji.
That's right.
What is Arsenal's goal here? Are they trying to win the Premier League at the moment?
No.
Okay. Do they have the squad to qualify for the Champions League?
I'll say no.
Really?
I'll say no.
I think they have as good of a squad as Leicester, Chelsea.
I still think they're a part of the
Manchester
Pick
United,
Six, and I think
Tottenham.
that they'll be in that 3, 4, 5 slot by the time.
No. That's not what I'm saying. I think they should be there.
Yeah.
If Emery has any clue as to what he's doing, they should be there.
There's the big ticket there.
That's. I don't think he's even got a leg to stand on. I think he's got the roster to compete. I think a lot of this is on him. When you've got the situation that right now you're having, I believe we're on to maybe the 3rd or 4th referendum about Xhaka being your captain after telling his fans a few things, and his fans said a few things to him, and it's been nasty. That all ultimately comes back to your manager.
Yeah.
Well, it does in a way, but it also goes back to the overall direction of the club.
But you're not trying to win Premier League. That's the thing.
But you hired a guy from PSG who had done exactly what? I mean, not much. If you're in charge of PSG and you don't win Ligue 1, you're a disaster as a manager. You're not just failing as a manager. You're a disaster as a manager. Okay, good. You won Coupe de France and you won Ligue 1. Good for you. What did you do in Champions League again? Yeah, no.
Price is Right buzzer, I believe.
Like everybody else who's been there.
Correct. So that tells me that there are certain managers that when you hire them and you say, okay, where are they from? And they get listed, you're like, oh. It's almost to me like if you want to make the college football equation, when you have one of those pass wacky offenses, right? Like the Texas Techs of the world.
It's like Washington State.
Yeah, Washington State, and you're like, okay, we're gonna put you in charge of an NFL team. That's gonna look really good for about one game. And you saw this with Steve Spurrier when he took over DC. Preseason, they were throwing the ball all over the place. Regular season comes on, nope. Then you get butchered. And I think that's what you're seeing here with Unai Emery is that yes, Unai Emery is not the man who should be leading Arsenal. They have a good enough squad where they can stay in the top 6.
Guendouzi, David Luiz, and Bernd Leno at the back.
But a part of it is part of it is your talent as a manager, and part of it is the ingredients of the recipe you were given. And
I don't think he's got any say to ask for better ingredients. I think he's got enough ingredients. I think it's on him.
Fair enough.
I think it's. I mean, we could go back to should you've hired him or not? Probably not. Not if you wanted to stay what you were before.
But if you've got Lacazette and Aubameyang up top, that's a good start.
They've got the talent to do more than they're doing.
Yeah.
And that's what it comes back to for me. Like, he's underperforming. And I don't even put this on Arsenal. There are questions. Don't get me wrong. There are questions about ultimately, what are their ambitions? I don't think they are to win the Premier League right now. I don't think they want to spend the money to compete.
I think their
with Manchester
ambition
City
is
and Liverpool.
from Stan Kroenke is to continue to be a cash cow and a revenue source for him, and that is it.
That's it.
Well, but let's be real about that, because I think sometimes we look at that as oh, that's just a bad thing. Well, no, it's not, and it's it's not about oh, if they do that, they can't compete, because they can. It's not as simple as just, oh, they're running it to make money. Well, of course they are. Everybody is. But are they investing the money to be the top? Or can they, or do they want to? Because what Liverpool's spending, what Manchester City is spending, what others are spending and not getting the same results, like a Manchester United.
Right.
I don't know if Arsenal, honestly, since they built the stadium, have gotten back to wanting to spend that way.
No.
And they just might not be that team anymore.
Yeah.
I have a question for you guys.
Sure.
So we're talking about recent jobs. So PSG, probably not anything that was glamorous about that. We're just regarding what he's done before to get to PSG. So he was with Sevilla.
Mm-hmm.
Sevilla went to win Liga Europa for quite some time.
Yeah.
Yep.
So do you feel that he's the wrong coach for a league? He's more on those cup type of championships.
I think the Premier League's a different animal when it gets to this, and we saw it a little bit with Sarri at Chelsea, where it just didn't fit. I think there are and Arsenal is even more maybe iconoclastic in that they have a way that they want to play. They have a way that they want to see Arsenal be. Their fan base does. And when they're not that, they get frustrated. And I think any manager has that problem. And Emery's probably dealing with that. But since his time at Sevilla, it's been... He won one Liga in PSG, won a couple cups. He hasn't been at that level at Arsenal. And I think the way they finished last year and the way they've started this season, there's some serious issues. And there's some big questions that they have to look in the mirror about, because there are managers out there who are available, who are big names, who would be interested in managing at a club like Arsenal.
Are you suggesting Mourinho? I think you're suggesting Mourinho.
I don't think he's definitely not the fit for Arsenal. That would be a panic move, because the style that he wants to play
With the personnel that's currently there.
But he would also want to stick it to Chelsea.
Yeah.
And take it just to be that guy. I don't think they should do that. I don't think they will.
Here's a theory that I have about Emery as we're talking this through. Unai Emery at Sevilla is doing well with the resources that are available at Sevilla. The resources available at PSG, they pretty much will throw money at any problem, and you can fix it, but it's also legal, so it's almost an outlier in the theory. Is Unai Emery a better coach when he has less financial resources to play with, to where he has to build something, as opposed to being in an Arsenal situation where you are throwing money at a problem, but it has to be the right money and the right player, instead of building something somewhat organically and being financially prudent about what you're doing?
But now we're throwing money at the problem, and that hasn't been what Arsenal's been doing.
Right.
So now I'm confused.
Well, no, I'm thinking that when Unai Emery is available to build without financial resources, with less financial resources than available at Arsenal, is he a better manager in that situation than he is where you have the pocketbooks relatively open and you're just bringing guys in who you're probably overpaying or what have you? Is he a better coach with less financial resources available to build with than he is when the pocketbooks are open?
He should be able to take that with a squad like Arsenal. I mean, because they don't have the squad that other teams in the Premier League have at the top. They don't have that. I think he's underperforming.
I share that vision. I think I don't think it's the financial resource that it's not building the.
I think it's the size of the club.
Yeah.
That's my theory.
I think he's better at a smaller club.
Yeah, I think that's, yeah.
I think, yes, but it's from a different reason. I think he doesn't own the locker room on the big clubs.
That's a good way to put it.
You know,
that plays into it.
There are a lot of egos. He doesn't have a curriculum to own the locker room. So I think he's more successful with the small clubs or small leagues when, those are talents that are not as famous as the big players, and
it's a more communal environment.
It's a community, but he can actually form a team, not really good individuals that are playing together.
His
ticket
theory was PSG. If he had went there and won a Champions League and dominated France, then maybe you're talking about somebody with a different level of respect in a locker room at Arsenal, but I don't think he has that, and I think that's what it is. It's not about the spending; it's about stature.
Yeah.
And Arsenal's maybe too big for him.
All right, so fair enough. we've identified. You've swayed me. You've swayed me.
I swayed you which way?
Okay.
You were going more on the club.
I was going more on the club overall.
There's issues there too.
There's issues there.
But they've got enough
Yeah.
to be a Champions League team, I think.
When does Kroenke fire him, though? Because Kroenke is not known. He's super cheap.
Didn't he just do a new contract too?
I think he may.
I think he did over the summer, so that's going to make it tricky.
And how long did he wait to make sure that Arsene Wenger was not going to be a part of this situation anymore?
He's not coming back. He's on a beach.
Not having it.
He's on a beach.
35 years of
chilling.
coaching Arsenal and being there and making sure that he's smoking on the beach in Monaco.
He's chilling, or he's going to take Real Madrid when he
he's
gets
probably
bored.
wearing a puffy coat. He's probably wearing
He's
a puffy
definitely
coat
doing that.
in Monaco.
I look like Justin Hayward from the Moody Blues. We're
Just
wearing
standing on the beach with his hands in his pockets, just looking around.
But before we get to Italy, I want to talk about Tottenham a little bit. Again, I feel like we're doing this a lot, but they scored in the first minute
Yes, they did.
Yeah.
against Liverpool.
And then they didn't score again.
Well, that happens. Like, you act like everybody's scoring a bunch of goals against Liverpool. No, it's the way it went down. Because no, this is serious. Like, Tottenham is a club, and I thought Neil Barnett really broke this down well on SiriusXM this morning. Tottenham was a Champions League finalist last year.
Yeah.
But they started time wasting like a tiny little team playing in the League Cup
Yeah.
after getting a goal on the road.
Yeah.
A Champions League finalist
Right.
should not have the mentality of, let's start wasting time in the 20th minute.
That's what Brighton does if they've got a lead in the first minute.
And that's a big issue.
Okay, but who makes that call?
I think it's fear. I think it's everybody.
Okay.
I think it's players and management. I think it's I think it's everybody at the club right now is terrified because of how bad this is.
So if it is Maurizio, if it's him,
he lost the club when he didn't get to go to Manchester United.
right.
I mean, I think that's what it is. I think he's done. You've got players who are done because they didn't get sold.
Right.
And now they're done, and then you've got all the talk that came out today about there were no offers for Christian Eriksen in the offseason.
Yeah,
he wanted to go to Spain. He wanted to go to Madrid or Barca. There were no offers. Manchester United was interested, but it didn't get to an offer because Eriksen wasn't interested.
Mm-hmm.
I believe it was Alderweireld who had the only offer from Roma. They didn't sell him. So, like, you've got a bunch of disgruntled people who don't want to be there anymore, and now it's really going bad, and they're playing and acting out of fear.
Yeah.
Right.
You get an early lead, that's a gift.
Mm-hmm.
You hit the post to start the second half when you realize, maybe we can actually play.
Right.
And then you end up blowing it and losing.
Look, if you see this a lot. I know you see it a lot in Italy when you have managers who were in charge of a provincial team who moved to one of the larger clubs. This happens typically early on, where they have their first real big match and they hold on, we're going to bunker.
That's what we talked about with Alfaro at Boca Juniors against River. I mean, that's exactly what he did.
Yeah, and the good managers, the ones with potential, recognize the mistake and then say, okay, we're going to open it up because I have the horses to run. We're going to do it. I just this situation, because of the toxic element, because of the Pochettino to United rumors, because you have the players who didn't get sold, and that's news to me that there were zero.
It's reports that are coming out today. I mean, could be true, could be not true.
Yeah, there were allegedly zero bidders for Eriksen. Now you have players who don't feel like they don't want to be at the club. Now they feel unwanted in general, which is probably adding even more to the weight of their psyche, and that's not going to help anything at all. I want to know at what's the bottom for this club, because you have the talent. We talked about the talent to compete. There's a squad. They were in the Champions League final. They have the talent to compete,
but they don't want to be there anymore.
But they don't want to be there. And that, to me, that there is no bottom when you have a situation like that. I mean, what is it? 8, 9, 10? Is that the bottom for this club? Where they go, well,
they'll be if this maintains, I could still see them somewhere 7, 8, 9, 10, somewhere in there. Because there are teams that are worse.
You're at 11
they got too
now.
much talent to be
You're
much worse than
now.
11.
Yeah.
And you, I mean, Sheffield is a dangerous team.
Strangely enough, playing a 3-5-2.
Strangely enough, playing a 3-5-2. Go Sheffield. Go Big Ups Blades. United, Ole's at the wheel. They got to win, so I guess Ole's at the wheel again. I don't know. But they're in 7th.
They've got bigger problems than Ole.
Yeah, but the thing is that we just talked about Arsenal being problematic. They're still there at 5th. Chelsea sitting there at 4th. Go Frank. Leicester City.
Yeah.
They're real.
They ain't going nowhere.
They're not going anywhere. Man City, God knows they're not going anywhere. Same with Liverpool. Even if they do slip, they're not going to fall all the way down.
So, you're looking at a top end of 7.
Yeah.
Basically.
And I don't see a Spurs team that's going to compete with any of them.
No.
And I'll say Crystal Palace. I don't even know if the Spurs team could beat Crystal Palace on any given day at this point with the mentality, because you can't chart the mentality. You could chart the names on the back of the shirts, and you can XGs and everything else, but you can't chart mentality. That's eye test only.
Mm-hmm. You saw Dele Alli back in the lineup, and there was some promise there, and then now is it going to be sustained over a certain amount of period of time?
No, there's nothing to sustain. They played like a tiny team,
no doubt,
in this match, and they're done. No, that's the issue. Like that's it. They have no confidence. They have no mentality. You got guys who didn't want to be there, and they're not trying to make the best of it. Like, they're playing scared, and you're not going to win anything playing scared. Forget it.
No.
Like, forget it. They're nothing. They'll be in the middle of the table because they're too good not to be, but they're not going to be anything to worry about.
Resign then? Should Pochettino resign?
Yeah.
He won't because
don't get fired.
paychecks are nice, but he won't.
That's the thing. He's going to be fired. He's not going to resign.
Yeah. No, he's not going to be fired.
There's a part of me that
what
would
I'm
have
saying,
to be like,
as I'm saying,
no, he's not going to be fired.
You want your paycheck, so you're going to be like, fire me.
But he's not going to be fired.
Yeah.
He's going to have somebody buy him out because he's going to go somewhere else.
Yeah.
Like, that's what's going to happen. He's not going to be fired because they're not going to.
So that's what we need. We need a
it.
club to step in and be like, yeah.
There will be clubs who will. It's just they're not. It's not that time yet.
Has anyone and this is a question for the table. Has anyone in your lifetime ever been gruntled about anything? I always hear about people being disgruntled. I've never heard anybody ever being gruntled.
I have never used that term. I've never showed up on a job site and be like, I am gruntled today.
Yeah.
I've never used that. But yes, there have been several jobs where I've been like, yeah, I think I could qualify as gruntled.
It truly is a word.
Today.
Because if you're disgruntled, then you'd have to be gruntled.
Gruntled is pleased, satisfied, contented.
Okay.
And you have fans at both Arsenal and Spurs who are not gruntled. They are disgruntled.
They are disgruntled.
As our players.
Look, well, Spurs, they have that nice, shiny new stadium, right? It's like having a Ferrari with a 16-year-old at the wheel. You know, it's like you got this wonderful thing and no idea what we're going to do with it.
No offense.
That's right.
and that kid is, and you just hear that kid behind the wheel, and you hear this.
Yeah, that's it. The transmission.
Trying to find the gears, and it's just not good.
It is, and I mean, there has to be some radical change. There has to be some radical change moment for this club. They're not going to fire him.
No.
He's not going to resign.
Nah.
The players are not seemingly invested emotionally
I want
to
see what the January transfer window looks like for them.
This could be nuts. This could be like a Gruden from the Raiders situation where some club just comes in and they're like, we're going to buy your contract out, Maurizio. Come here in January because we are at the precipice of where we need to be.
And then the players who want out?
Ooh, Milan could do that. Milan could make that happen. Elliott Fund said, forget the debt. We don't care. We're all in, baby.
145 minus 145 euro.
Happening.
I'm just saying, they have the money.
All right, let's get into Italy real quick.
All right,
because
let's do it.
I saw a couple things that I need to ask your opinion about.
All right, here we go.
Two different, and this is from Mondays with Reddit. Because
Mondays with Reddit.
I saw that Juventus is about to announce a loss of just under $40 million for the last year.
Right.
Inter posted a loss of $48.4 million for the last year.
Yep.
Why is everybody posting their losses, and why are they so large?
Well, Juve is going to say that they posted acceptable losses, but they're about to get a capital injection of $300 million.
Yeah,
right?
I saw that.
And they're also going to do some debt restructuring as well. The
It's the
issue
beauty
is,
of being a publicly traded company.
it is one of the many benefits of being a publicly traded company that they can just will money out of the air, it seems. But going back to when they first started talking about financial fair play, every team president in Serie A said this will cripple our league because there has never been financial stability in that league. That I am convinced, and I'm going to need somebody with financial expertise to sit down and crunch these numbers with me, but I am convinced I have a hypothesis that if you took what the actual revenue should be for the clubs based on attendance, teams, player sales, and so forth, it probably wouldn't be that much higher than the Eredivisie. There's a massive hole in their numbers somewhere. You have ancient stadiums, dilapidated garbage stadiums that need to be either wrecked or just retrofitted to God's green earth, but they're just now starting to promote youth talent. The fact that Chiesa's even on the field is nuts. The fact that Tonali's on the field is nuts because 20 years ago, those guys would still be with the youth teams. They would be sitting on the bench. They would not be playing major minutes in Serie A. And you had Donnarumma, who started, his first career Serie A start, he was, 17? Which is like, my God in heaven, is this even Italy anymore?
So you had Ahmad Traore score on his debut yesterday, or two days ago, for Atalanta. And then he went and had 2 assists to win the Supercoppa Primavera for the U19s the next day.
Yeah.
That sounds like something that you get before a meal.
Right, yeah.
Ay, Dios mío.
John.
Yes, I'd like that. I mean, that's a separate antipasto that you get for $9.
But look, this is a problem with Serie A, is that you have decades and decades of bad money dumped into that league. You have teams that are still going by antiquated philosophies when it comes to player transfers, when it comes to youth development, and they are going to have to start identifying the fact that the larger teams that are still on the tail end of being a global brand don't have the financial wherewithal to be a global brand anymore. And so they have to start acting like a smaller club. And they don't want to.
not going to let them do that.
They have to.
Well, it doesn't sound like Milan's going to act that way.
No, and that's why Milan, I think, has said, forget Europe. We don't care. We're going to invest to high heaven because all you have to do is you have to over a cumulative of 3 years on average balance your books. You have 3 years to balance your books. And I think Milan says we posted a 140+ million euro deficit. We think we can make that up. I know how they're going to make it up, but
they're saying they're going to spend now in January.
Yeah, they say they're going to spend.
Vito Angeli says that the strategy has changed.
Yeah.
Boban and Maldini's requests have been approved. They're going to bring in experienced players.
They're psycho. They're nuts.
That's what I was expecting you to say.
They're psycho. They're nuts. And you have they may be a renegade league. They may be a renegade league that just says forget financial fair play. We're going to do what we're going to do, and if you want to ban us, if you want to ban Juve, if you want to ban Milan, you want to ban Inter, have at it and watch your numbers decrease. Because everybody answers to the almighty metric. And if the metrics dip, maybe UEFA figures out that those bags of money left out, at the back door for them, and they do what they need to do.
You're going to get a Super League at some point.
You're going to.
That's what's going to
happen.
happen.
You're going to. It's the only viable solution for Italy.
Yeah.
It's the only viable solution for Italy.
Yeah, it's going to get ugly. All right, another one from. Go ahead.
I was listening to that, and a lot of what you guys said just reminds me of Brazilian league. I think there's something in Italy that's very unique. When you have a very dominant club like Juventus, and so you talk about ancient stadiums. That's one of the pillars for Juventus to be so successful. They went on this probably early 90s, and they had the most modern stadium in Italy. But I think it goes beyond that. They adopt a strategy that's very, very bad. It's very important for Juventus, but it's very bad for the league, is that they sign up the best players in Italy. So think about Higuain. think about the big players. They all be drafted from other Italy clubs. Well, that really puts them on the very prestigious place in that league, but it pretty much it just undermine everyone's chance to succeed. Something around putting some, I don't know if it's the right answer is to put some blocks and they cannot do that, but that mentality has been very, very, very bad for Italy, especially when after the 90s when the interest shift to other leagues. Mm-hmm. Spanish league came first, and Premier League is an important one, and one big source of money was TV rights. The interest is not there anymore, so they need to reinvent. They need to find ways to get the money back flowing to the league. Probably not the Chinese investment at all costs. I don't know if that's the right way, but it's just this process that is just one big dominant club in that league that just kills everyone else.
Mm-hmm.
So what's the situation with the stadium for Milan?
Well, allegedly they enter in AC Milan. They San Siro is, as we just talked about, it's a legendary stadium. There have been moments there that will be shown on highlights for all time.
Oh, it's an amazing stadium.
Yeah. But it's time for just as Juve showed, you can no longer have these stadiums that have tracks around them. You can't have the multi-purpose stadium. You need to put the fans, almost the Premier League type experience, where you put the fans right on top of the field, and you reduce the seats to make the tickets more in demand. I mean, I'm sure everyone is tired of seeing empty seats all over Serie A, but they have elected to move forward together building a new stadium. The mayor of Milan says this is unacceptable because they're going to own it. The city will not own it.
Right.
And
the two teams will?
To my knowledge, the two teams will own it.
Oh, that'll go over well.
And so, and a lot of the stadiums in Italy are owned by the city, not the teams themselves.
Right.
And so this is it's a major revenue issue. It's not terribly different than what the Braves had with Turner Field. Mm-hmm. And so you can't, if you remember that situation, the Braves could not make money off of the parking and the concessions and things like that. So even though they were a large market team, they operated like a small market team. So there are situations that are similar to this in Serie A, and Milan's one of them.
So I've got a big question for you.
Yeah.
You have to pick one. Which stadium opens first? Miami, Milan, or New York City?
I will go with Milan.
Yeah,
I'll go
too.
with Milan.
Wow.
I'll go with Milan.
I'll go with Milan.
Not where Miami's set to be, not their temporary.
Not Lockhart.
Their
Milan.
temporary
Yeah,
one.
not
will happen.
Lockhart, but Miami.
Hands down, Milan.
Yeah,
because Roma has issues building a stadium. That's because if you dig 6 feet anywhere, you're hitting some ancient fresco that can't be touched because it's a UNESCO World Heritage Site.
That's also very true.
Yeah. So Milan has far fewer of those, and it's easier for them to come in, buy property, knock down some buildings, and here you go, chuck some cash around, to the right people, and some for-profit community organizers, and you get your job done. Miami, however, everything down in Miami is like there's some either binding UN resolution that you cannot build in this particular neighborhood, or the city council won't green light it.
Which set of politics is going to be more difficult to deal with?
Because the property of the golf course at Melreese could blow up.
That's right. Yeah. So the property value in New York and in Miami. It's the city council that's the problem in Miami, and in New York, it's how far out can you find affordable real estate?
Actually, the flip side of Heritage Park is where they're looking now. It's like you have Yankee Stadium, you have Old Yankee Stadium, which is now Heritage Park. Then the flip side of that property, there is a factory and a parking lot that they're now looking at as that particular space.
Yeah, there's things happening. Like NYC.
So we're talking Bronx though. We're talking Bronx.
Yeah. But they're getting to the point that they're talking about freeway ramps, and they're having neighborhood meetings where they're talking about potential stadiums.
That's interesting.
So yeah, I mean, there's things happening.
Still, you're going to have to deal with certain groups.
Community
Oh,
organizers.
To make things.
Yeah,
Yeah, community
yeah.
organizers. They're still there. You know, I don't know if it's the same level of for-profit community organizers that you're going to have in Milan, but yeah, I still lock, stock, and barrel Milan. Final answer. That stadium gets built
Milan.
first.
Wow.
Because you have two teams that are making that happen. You have two teams, so you don't have to worry about the same issues that you have in Rome, where allegedly Lazio gets stuck with Stadio Olimpico,
Right.
and you end up with a Lazio, supporter on the council who just wants to stick
Yeah.
it to Roma. No,
Yeah.
you're not getting your stadium this year, pal. So no. That's not happening.
Okay. Another question from Mondays with Reddit
Okay.
as we get
Mondays
close to
with
wrapping up
Reddit.
here. So, in the Barca Madrid women's match yesterday, you have the mascots, the kids who come out with the teams.
That's right.
One little girl was very, very disappointed when she was assigned to Barca. She said, "But I'm from Madrid."
Oh wow.
Oh.
Would Jackie do that if he was assigned to Orlando?
Yes,
He would.
he would. He would. I know my son.
If he had to walk out with Will Johnson.
Oh yeah. He would.
If he had to walk out with screaming Will Johnson,
He would. I'll put it to you this way. He has walked out twice with Atlanta United.
Yep.
We have been extraordinarily blessed and fortunate to have him walk out twice. And the first time he walked out, I want to say it was against Columbus, and
and he was set to walk out with Anthony Precourt.
and he was like, Dad, what happens if they put me with like Columbus? I'm like, well, bud, you just kind of have to smile and just kind of nod. And he's like, I don't think I'm going to walk out. So, luckily, he walked out with LGP the first go round.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah, and then the next one was they played NYCFC, and he was a little more open to walking out with one of them. I think it's just the benefits of being a little bit older.
Right.
He would have probably not have been as happy, but he walked out with PD, and so he was quite
Very
thrilled.
nice.
Referred to him as my boy for the rest of the game.
Very cool.
And so,
My boy
So
PT.
yeah, but I don't know if it was Orlando. I think he would be like, I gotta go to the bathroom. I gotta go to the bathroom.
I got sick to my stomach.
That's right. Yeah. I have to say he may or may not have taken a dive this past weekend in his.
Were
club
you
game.
proud?
I
Jackie-
was beyond.
That's what I thought. Okay.
Beyond.
That's the right answer,
Yeah.
by the way.
The player came up and hit him, and he hit the ground like somebody had thrown a rock at him.
Yep.
And he was like laying on the ground, and I'm like, "Sir, you're gonna call that? You're gonna call?" Then the foul was given. The play,
Oh,
look,
that's great.
Look, you gotta teach the children well.
You got to do what you
You
got to do.
teach the children well at an early
No
age.
problem with this.
No problem at all.
You had the right answer. I was a little worried for a second.
And the best part is that he has mastered the art of laying motionless on the ground after
there
he
you
gets hit.
go.
Where you
See,
are,
that's next level.
yeah, where you're forced to stop play because you're like, oh my God, is that child really hurt? And you can hear the parents. The parents are like, oh my God, that poor child.
And you're just sitting. You're sitting back there,
like-
sipping on your drink.
Yep.
He's all right.
Somebody should really check on that kid,
I don't know who he is.
Yeah.
But look, if you, it's part of the dark arts. U.S. soccer players learn the dark arts. It's part of it.
All right. You mentioned U.S. soccer. You get to rant because you said something that I think might be unfair.
Okay.
Serginho Dest chose to play for the United States,
Right.
not the Netherlands.
Right.
And you're telling Serginho Dest that he made the wrong decision.
Made the wrong choice. This is, to me, if you play with a club like the Netherlands, whether you are on the bench and you are, you know that you're going to be a sub. That's going to be your role with the Dutch team is you're going to be a sub. You have a shot at being a part of teams that can win Euros, that have a realistic shot of winning the World Cup. It's not some kind of mythical project 20
Right.
insert date here.
Yeah.
They didn't qualify last time.
They didn't qualify last year.
They didn't qualify for the Euros either.
But okay, well, Italy didn't qualify for the World Cup either, and they were able to turn it around. There's nothing about this U.S. men's national team that is inspiring, that is innovative.
He wrote a letter. He
That is,
apologized.
I don't care if 3GB wrote a letter in Braille. I don't care if he wrote it in smoke signals and used a carrier pigeon.
He said, "I'm sorry."
It is a team that is bereft of leadership, bereft of
Rudderless?
creativity. I'm just saying that it is not the players on the field, because you have a player pool, right? And we have talked about the issues that are plaguing the youth side, and we're not going to get into that right now. If you want a marketing decision and you want to put a little more cash in your pockets with sponsorship deals, then the U.S. men's national team is the one you sign for. Obviously, larger market to deal with. But if you want to compete and have a chance to be competitive on a global scale, it's the Netherlands, historically. Without question, you have a better shot with the Netherlands than you do with the U.S. men's national team. And he picked the wrong choice from a competitive. Earn and fight your way to the starting lineup of that Dutch national team.
I don't think that had anything to do with it. I think it was just the feel. I don't think he was thinking about
Ernie
it from
Stewart?
that side.
Ernie Stewart?
No, I don't think it's Ernie. I mean, he's played for the youth national teams. It's not like he hadn't been part of it. He's been part of 2 youth World Cups. You know, I think it was honestly the feel with the group. I think he has friends in the program, fellow players. I don't think it had anything to do with career moves. I think it was where he was comfortable.
Dutch international Dest is probably getting better contracts than American international.
That's
Dest.
very possible, but I just don't think that factored into the decision for him.
It should have.
Yeah.
It should have.
See, that's what's hard about the national team stuff is I don't think it's fair to say anybody made a wrong choice, because I think it's a very personal choice.
Everybody, and for everybody who's getting really worked up and excited over this, oh my God, we have this person with dual nationality who chose the United States. It's going to be a game changer for us. And my friend Rodrigo here will understand this. There was a player by the name of Amari who was supposed to play for the Brazilian national team. And he was debating this great waffling between Italy and Brazil. And he came to Italy and did absolutely bupkis. Did nothing. So just be careful where you put the eggs in that basket. That's all I'm saying.
For sure.
But I will say that if I were the parent in this situation, and I will use Jackie Fresh as an example, and it was Italy who just missed the World Cup, and the United States who just missed the World Cup, and he said, Dad, I'm going to play for the United States over Italy. And Italy had been calling and said, hey, look, we want you in this program, which I would be like, son, you made the wrong choice.
But see, I think there's the difference, is the Netherlands have not been calling and calling and calling. I think they've just started to call. And the U.S., he's been to 2 youth World Cups. Mm-hmm. They never called him into youth national teams for the Netherlands. They only just started to call about the U23s, not the senior team. I think that's part of it, is right. The U.S. was, for one case, finally, and maybe it's the only case on record, they were proactive. And he was part of their group from a young age. I think that was hard for him to walk away from.
Mm-hmm. I think there's something around more time in the field. So if you think about Netherlands right now, they were out of the big competitions, but they are going through a lot of transformation. Mm-hmm. A lot of the successful players, Robin, Van Persie, they're all the end of their careers not long ago. Mm-hmm. So there's a little bit of transformation. But if you think about Netherlands, there's a very, very promising generation coming. That was a Jacques from probably 2 years ago. Mm-hmm. So I think there's something around, maybe not so much about career, but I mean, am I going to be able to play? Am I going to be just someone in the bench? I think there's something around that.
Maybe, and that's what's so hard about it, because I mean, I don't know if there's ever a right answer in these situations. I mean, we can look at it from the outside, but we're not that player. We're not in their head. We're not in their heart. That's why when people get into the dual national situation with U.S.-Mexico, and we talked about it with the U.S. Not putting the time and energy into recruiting players and not reaching out and making them feel wanted. I think Dest is one who felt wanted, and that's why he chose it this way.
Right, but there's nothing inspiring about Berhalter. Nothing
No.
inspiring
I don't
about
think it's
Berhalter.
again. I don't think it's anything to do with that.
Nothing inspiring about Ernie Stewart's
But
leadership.
see, here's the thing: if you look at it, you're 18. You're Serginho Dest.
You're gonna hang out with your buddies.
No. It's Berhalter might be there for 4 years. He might be there for 8.
No.
Maybe.
Look, we are doomed with Berhalter. The Berhalter brothers.
Wow.
Look, if you think that Greg Berhalter is going to lose his job for any reason in the next 3 years, you've lost your mind.
Oh, I didn't say that. I said 4 years.
Okay, so he's going to be there. He's going to be there. This guy has an iron lock on the job. His brother will not fire him. Ernie Stewart will not fire him. This thing with Miles Robinson, I'm hoping he learned from it, but there's nothing inspiring about this man. If I were playing for Ajax and I walk off the field and there's Ernie Stewart and Greg Berhalter waiting on me, I'm walking right past him and going to the locker room. I'm not even talking to him. Well, we came to talk to you about the U.S. men. No, you wasted a lot of gas is what you did. You just polluted the environment. There are contrails of wasted air vapor that has flown behind an airplane but that you were on when you came over to see me. You better get back on the plane and fly back over to the United States where you belong.
You
Don't
got
come
your
and talk
miles
to
and
me.
points. You may as well just turn around and go home.
That's the most valuable thing you got out of this trip and the free drink that you got in first class.
One day, maybe, Nick will come back around.
There's no way in the world. The U.S. men's national team has lost me forever. Ever. I've never really cheered for the U.S. men's national team. Anyway, let me go ahead and make that abundantly clear.
Okay.
But
That's a big part of this.
But there's been nothing. There's been no moment, even when they were up 2-0 on Brazil in the Confederations Cup, that I sat there and go, yeah, this is going to be short-lived. Because there's nothing inspiring about this team.
Did you say that when they beat Spain in that same tournament? Probably.
I thought I was shocked on that one.
Yeah,
that
that's what I'm
shocked
saying.
me.
Yeah.
And I will say, if Bob Bradley, and as much as I hate him, Bruce Arena, and it is big time hate for Bruce Arena.
Wow.
I would feel more confident with Bruce. Nothing bothers me. I don't care about anything. Bruce Arena than Greg Berhalter. Berhalter's trying to install the Gordian knot system into the U.S. men's national team. And I think Wayne Rooney was 100% correct. Look, you're overcoaching, man. Just let him play. But what are you going to get in the meantime? Oh, let's go fight for that next Gold Cup, boys. It's going to be a randy-dandy time when Tata Martino runs you off the field 4-0. When Tyler Adams is yet again being played out of position because you're putting in a player who
hasn't happened yet. Hold on.
I'm just saying.
He's anticipating.
I'm anticipating it. But I'm just saying that you keep trotting out guys. If Ernie Stewart and Greg Berhalter came out and said, if you are not going to be on this team for Qatar, you're not playing. Your days are done. Thank you. Have a great one. We appreciate your service to this country and this program. You're out of Dodge. We're not starting anyone over the age of 25. It's not happening.
That's
I don't
dumb.
care who you are. How's that dumb?
That's dumb.
No, it's not. You have to build for the future.
Yeah,
Your
but you still
program's
have
being rebuilt from
competitions along the
ground
way.
up. And get these kids playing time now. If you're going to install this galactically complex system,
That's the biggest problem.
Astrophysics
Capital
are required
T, capital
to learn
S trademark.
Yeah,
And you've already gotten away from that. We can drop that nonsense because he's already went back on 3-4 different things that he said he was going to do that he's stopped doing.
well, all I'm saying is if I'm in charge of the national team and everyone out there saying thank God he's not, I would say if you're over the age of 25, you're not starting. I want players only who are going to grow and develop because then I buy my coach time. Because then I could say
I know what you're saying.
Yeah. If we fail, we fail together.
Yeah.
And we rise together, but we're going to do it together
Yeah, it's
and
only
build
you
a
can
system
afford to
and a
do it
program.
that way. And I think there are players who have something to give who are outside of that age group. I think the problems here, honestly, for me, are the same problems that I had with Klinsmann, the same problems I had with Bruce Arena at the end. I think it's tactical decisions from the manager who are letting this group down. They could be better than they are. But the last three managers are not making the right tactical decisions,
Nope.
and you're getting less than you should be getting. We could keep going all night. We're not going
That's
to.
national team down here.
Yes.
Dr. Wifey, who is apparently listening at home, I said this was going to happen. Hello, Pumpkin. Daddy loves you.
Did she change the password on your eBay account?
I think she has. I think she's gone in and done that. She said, "Just remember, you became a Falcons fan too." Just saying. And full transparency, I worked for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers the season before they went to the Super Bowl and the season they went to the Super Bowl.
There you go.
And they made a series of decisions that I could not be on board with, and we'll have to have this as a part of the show sometime, where you can officially give up your team.
Okay.
I took 10 friends and put them in a Facebook DM, and I called them the commission. And I said, you all are the jury. and I will list off my grievances against said team.
Yeah.
And based on that, you will either say yes or no, you're able to ditch your team. And I provided my argument. They listened, they contemplated, and they came back and they gave me the green light to ditch the team. But we formed a series of rules around this as well.
Process.
Yeah.
That you can only do it once, and you can't do it with a team that's won a title in the past 3 years.
Okay.
So that's the.
Okay.
So that way you can't be a front runner. Like you can't just say, oh, "Okay, I'm a Patriots fan." Hey, like you can't do that.
No.
There are rules that you have to go by in this.
Yeah, I mean, there's always extenuating circumstances. Like if you relocated to Boston or something, and something had happened with your previous. Like, yeah, there's things that can mitigate it. But sure, I mean, you're going to drop Milan for Roma here soon. We know this.
She's looking really good.
It's gonna happen.
Their social media account alone is like absolutely.
Oh, no
and
doubt.
they follow me. Milan has yet to follow me.
See, I
Roma
mean,
follows me.
It's
Roma's
all
putting in
about
the effort.
feeling wanted, like I said
feel
about
wanted.
Serginho
I feel
Dest.
wanted
See,
by
but
Roma.
the thing is that Nick thinks that Serginho Dest is going to turn into the next Aaron Johansson.
Hey? Yeah. You know. Throw that out there. Look, I have taken this. I have had this battle for years. When people said, "Oh, you should cheer for the U.S. men's national team. It's your country. It's your country." Blah, 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 blah. Look, I gave my butt to the Marine Corps in defense of the country. I think I can cheer for who I want.
Oh,
in
you can cheer
international
for who you
soccer.
want for sure. No,
So-
that's not what I'm saying.
That's right. And I qualify for dual citizenship, so I can cheer for Italy all day long, and it's great. So that's who I cheer for. And I'm just I choose inspiration over buffoonery and budget reports that state how much of a surplus you have.
And that's why you're going to choose Roma.
I mean, it might be,
For those
it might
reasons.
be. And they have the smoking hot David Bowie kids with the
See,
lightning bolt. They have like the Ziggy Stardust
You're
lightning
going
bolt.
to
on
show
the
up
front.
in a Roma kit and just be like, see,
It might happen. It might happen.
yeah, that's what's going to happen. There's not going to be a commission on
I
it.
can feel Gattuso landing at Hartsfield right now.
Gattuso's going to come in with a fork.
He's coming with a fork.
He's going to come attacking with a fork. Players missed matches for Milan because of Gattuso with a fork.
Yeah. Look, hey. Milan needs to get its act together. That's all I'm saying.
They need to follow you.
And if Gattuso ends up being the new coach at Inter Miami,
oh God, that's gonna be tough. I won't get a kit. I will not get a kit because Atlanta is my team.
Yes.
Atlanta is my team. I may get the warm-up jacket with the Gattuso name, the initials on it, though. I may do that.
You just want anything with the herons on it.
I may do that. Oh, it's a gorgeous looking
It
logo,
is a good
isn't
logo.
it?
Yeah, it's a great logo.
My God, it's
100%.
a gorgeous logo. Like Rodrigo's over here, like he's thinking in his head, "Ain't no way in hell that would happen to me back in Brazil." that Palmeiras
Expansion
is
teams
really
make
nice
it really difficult, though.
They do.
They come out of nowhere and they grab you with flashy birds on logos and such.
No, I'm convinced that Atlanta United is like, hold up, you're up here with who now this time around? Because last time you were here with this group, now you're here with this. No. It's Atlanta United ride or die for me. All right, that is my MLS team. I first went before Atlanta United ever came along. I went to FC Dallas games, and my ex-wife's aunt was a county commissioner out there, so we got box seats and everything. And
so you were the one.
that was me. That was the guy.
You're
That was
the one,
guy
you're
who
the
was
one
yelling.
sitting there.
I was the guy who was screaming at Dominic Adoro. That was my favorite player. I did watch the Danielson debacle go down there. That was not.
The Danielson
That was
debacle.
really
that was
bad.
Not good. I was wanting the electric crossover where he's like full speed. And oh God, I wanted
Yeah.
that so bad in MLS.
Not
I was like,
capable
this
of
is
that
going to be
anymore.
amazing, and then it didn't happen. And I was like, this is terrible.
He
Life
could
is
juggle.
horrible.
That was about it.
I wanted God, his name is escaping me at the moment, and I cannot believe it. The guy who Kurlan, right? The guy with
The seal dribble,
seal
yeah.
dribble. That's who I really wanted. I really wanted.
He
him in
actually
MLS.
came here and trained with the Silverbacks for a while.
What?
Yeah, like way late after everybody had passed up on Carlon, and he'd probably been kicked a million times in the head because he'd balanced the ball in his head and run down the field. It was nasty. Some of the fouls on that guy, oh my God.
Well, look, when you bring that kind of sauce to a game.
Oh, no, you're
when
going to
you
get
bring
kicked.
that kind of sauce, and like you came up playing at like Parkview. And this guy's running past you with a ball balanced on his nose.
Yeah, you're going to get Shaolin soccer cleats to the chest.
You're going to get a fork.
double drop kick like Jeff Hardy off the sideline.
Yes.
It's coming in.
The swanton.
The swanton bomb at midfield. It's going to happen. The people's elbow is coming out.
Here's a 450 splash.
Oh
my goodness.
All right. Things have thoroughly degenerated
We
now,
have.
so we're going to call it a night.
We're going to call it a night.
What show doesn't thoroughly degenerate?
Yeah, that's true.
No, this has been a fun show, though.
Yes.
This has been a fun show. Rodrigo, thank you so much for coming out, man. It has been an absolutely great time. The knowledge that you just bombed us with here about Brazil was amazing.
Yeah.
And
Made all this stuff up.
it made all of it up.
It's all fake.
But it's...
Corinthians wears green.
I did not state that. Anyone who's listening in Brazil, Nick Alifi, the garlic bread warlord, did not state that.
There's your disclaimer for the
that's
evening. At the
disclaimer for
end
the
of the show.
Yeah, but I will be looking into getting a Corinthians kit, and get ready, guys. Copa Libertadores is coming along. It's going to be happening. So prepare yourselves accordingly.
It is a busy time in the SDH universe. MLS Conference Finals tomorrow night. They start late night. MLS Cup playoffs after dark out in Los Angeles
MLS
as the
Conference
Seattle
Final after
Sounders
dark.
head out to L.A. Then Toronto comes to Atlanta on Wednesday.
Aren't they already here? Are they here tomorrow? Or are they here today?
No, they traveled today. They're playing on Wednesday. Copa Libertadores final, November 23rd is your date. It's a 3:30 kick. I don't know what day of the week that is off the top of my head. I think it's a Saturday. I think it's a Saturday afternoon. So
what day is it again?
23rd of November.
Yeah, it's Saturday.
I will. I won't be here.
It's a week before. It's the week before
I
Thanksgiving.
won't be here. No.
Bah.
I will be sending reports from the motherland.
All right.
During that period.
That's fair enough.
Marietta?
No, not Marietta.
The place of amazing food. We'll put it there. We'll put
Marietta
it there.
has great food. I mean, don't knock it, but
No, it does. It does.
I mean, I'm
There's
just
something
saying.
out there. But again, thanks to everyone for listening. And if Toronto has not left Toronto yet,
No, they're here.
They're here.
They're
oh
here.
God, crap! I was going to say, guys, you don't have to use your passports to come from Canada to the United States.
They're already
It's
here.
a crazy thing.
They remembered.
It's a crazy thing.
They got it.
All right, but
Whatever hotel you're at, make sure that you have your noise-canceling headphones.
yeah, if you are a hotel employee, and I'm not speaking on behalf of OSG Sports or anyone else associated with any team, I'm just saying it's probably the time of year as we start using heaters, electric heaters and gas heaters that, we check the fire alarm, and let's try to check the fire alarm at a time in which we're not going to really disrupt business, right? Let's try not to scare anybody during the day with a fire alarm. You don't want to do that.
You want to
right?
make sure that everyone checks in and they have a pleasant experience checking into the hotel.
That's right. Low stress.
And make sure that if they're checking out after breakfast, you want to make sure that brunch is okay.
Correct.
So let's see.
That's right.
That puts your fire alarm testing somewhere between midnight and about 7 a.m.
I like the midnight to 5:45 fire test. That's what we
We're
really
not in Orlando, guys.
I'm just saying.
This is Atlanta.
But yeah,
Where the players play.
We will be back. We will be back next Monday with more outstanding shenanigans for you. We really hope you tune in and come back.
They might
out.
be okay.
The Brewhouse, they have food.
9,000
specials.
TVs.
They have 9,000 TVs. We have UFC on one. We have.
It's on tape.
Oh wow! It's on. Okay, so we have ESPN too. There we go.
It's on tape.
Anytime I see MMA, I'm automatically distracted. But we will be back. We're going to have a great show. Until then, keep an ear out for us. Thank you so much for listening. We really appreciate it. Until then, mucha Euro, y'all.
All the lira.